Hello, this is Brian Chinnock, and we're going to, with the Central Valley Scholastic Chess Association, wanted to give parents and students information on getting ready for the tournament, our first online tournament. So everything is very different, and we want to make sure that everyone understands what to do. I'm going to go through a checklist, which I'll be sending out to all the parents and students to give more description. But first, I just wanted to go. So the first thing to be able to play is you have to be a member on chess.com. You do not need a paid membership. You need to make sure a lot of the students have usernames which don't have any sort of identifying information. The only way for us to know how to, to know places and things like that is we have to know the student's name. So make sure under the profile that you have the student's first and last name and the student's grade, what school they go to, listed there. So that's very important. So we can make sure they have that. Otherwise, again, we will have no way to be able to make a list at the end of the tournament for, and we'll talk about getting trophies and things like that after. Need to make sure that the student is registered under the Central Valley Scholastic Chess Association, which I'm not registered on here, will come, but it's one of the ones you'll see under the clubs there. Make sure and register on the Central Valley Scholastic Chess Association. There's a description about how to do that on under the Central Valley Scholastic Chess Association YouTube site. Has all sorts of videos to show you how to go through it, but make sure your student has to be registered in the Central Valley Scholastic Chess Association club site on chess.com. Next thing we're going to go through here is, so to pay for the tournament, the only way we have to be able to accept payment for this, since there's a lot of people paying, we don't have a way to really send checks or things like that since we don't have a set site to do it. So payment is going to need to be through PayPal or Venmo. The way to do that is going to need to have an account set up on either PayPal or Venmo. You will have the registration fee is going to be $5.50. The 50 cents helps us for the registration, for the sort of processing fees for it then too. Again, this is lower than the entry fee for last year. Again, it's $5.50. On either one of them, you'll be sending it to the Central Valley Scholastic Chess Association email site, which is going to be, as you show it here, let me share that screen. I'm sorry, here we're going to, so have to set up the PayPal or Venmo account, pay $5.50 to cvscholasticchess@gmail.com. It will come up as a choice under there. When sending in the money, very important, there'll be some sort of message or note section. Again, we need to be able to then take that money, which will come up in a list, and be able to then put it under the student's name who is being registered for the tournament. So we need, with that payment to PayPal or Venmo, the full name of the student, the grade, and school or homeschool, whichever the two, listed under there. Otherwise, we have no way to link the payment to the student. Okay. One last is making sure to, very, very important, this is a whole new thing doing these online tournaments. So there are some new important tournament rules that are particular to being able to play online in a fair and good way to help students have the best experience possible. So there are some, make sure you're reading the online tournament rules. I'm going to go over some of those right now. We're going to have, we'll talk about the tournament play. So this talks about the tournament play. It starts directly at 9 a.m. The student can register at any point on this central on chess.com at 8 a.m. It starts at 1 a.m. or sorry, 8 a.m., which is 1 hour before the 9 a.m. start time. It is important you get on and register before then. When the tournament starts at 9 a.m., unfortunately, there is no way to do a late registration. We do not have a way to enter the student into the tournament after. So again, make sure the student is registered to the club site well before then. Right at 8 a.m., we get on there and make sure their student is registered and ready to go, so there's no last minute worries about anything. the rounds themselves, each player, they'll have a 20 minutes on the clock each. This is a lot of time. This is the normal time controls we have for our regular tournaments in person. The clock only runs when it's the player's turn. Thus, each round can be a maximum 40 minutes. However, you need to know that each round will begin exactly when the previous round finishes. So if all the students in that age group, let's say K through 3 age group, if everyone finishes their games, let's say in 30 minutes, then right when that last game finishes at 30 minutes, that next one's going to start. So students, you need to make sure you are not away from the board very long. You need to kind of keep that with you. If you have a tablet and a laptop or something like that around that, you need to make sure you are hanging around with it and not away from it. We'll talk about it in some of the gameplay things, but you need to make sure you're staying on the gameplay screen. If you go off of that screen to check some other website or play some other game or something else like that, the chess.com engine will recognize you as being away from the board, and it will start to count down a clock. We don't know exactly what that clock is, but approximately 1 or 2 minutes away from that board, or sort of off of the screen, the chess.com screen, and it will then forfeit you from the game and give the win to your opponent. If you have not started the game yet, you are late to starting it then too, sometime around 1 or 2 minutes after the start time, if you have not made a move yet, you will also likely be forfeited then. So make sure you are starting at the appropriate time. If you have already started the game and you've already been making moves, and now you have a move that's taking you a particularly longer amount of time, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, something like that, that is okay. It will still give you time to do that. You need to be a little careful at some point if it is a very long time that you're taking, 7, 8, 9 minutes to make a move, then the chess.com computer might recognize you as having been away from the board too long and can forfeit you then too. So be aware of that. The tournament chat site for it then too, in our practice tournament, students were typing in constantly into there and stuff. And so you need to make sure, students, you need to understand that chat site, the general one, cannot be used for general chat anymore. It can only be used if you have a question for the tournament director. Okay, that is the only reason the chat function should be used under that, is only for the director. We are monitoring it. If someone is misusing it, they'll be warned. If they misuse it again, at a certain point, they will be have their game forfeited. They will be removed from the tournament. Okay, because we need to leave that open for people who have important questions for it too. As we have, unfortunately, with the difficulties of doing these online tournaments and still wanting to give trophies, but related to all the difficulties of making that happen, not being able to mail them out, things like that then too, we have a different system of awards we want to do this year. There will still be certificates mailed out for top individual performances during individual tournaments, so those will still be recognized. And there will still be trophies. However, we're going to be doing it as a system in which the trophies are at the end of the year for cumulative performance over the tournaments, in sort of what they call a Grand Prix style of scoring. What that means is we keep points cumulatively through the year. If the student finished 20th every single time for 5 different tournaments, let's say, then they would have 5 times 20 is 100 points. Comparing it against all the other ones, it's done sort of the way cross country is, where it's low points wins. And so we will keep points cumulatively like that. Now, obviously, there are times when someone can't make it to all the tournaments. We're trying to do this as a way to encourage the kids to come to as many as possible, but we recognize they can't come to all of them. So they'll get, over the course of these tournaments, if you miss one, there won't be a problem with it. If you miss more than one, they'll still get points towards it. We'll sort of give one of the sort of a higher maximum score of numbers, so they'll still have a chance in the points and everything like that. But again, I'm sure there'll be some rewarding for the people who are able to make all the tournaments. And again, this will give us the chance. Our plan, this will depend very much on how many students we have entering the tournaments, which we don't know yet. But our plan is to give out at the end of the year a lot more trophies than we normally would have at each individual tournament, because we'll be able to build that up for them too. We'd like to give at least half, the upper half of each division trophies, and the hope would be to give even more than that. Again, this will depend a lot on entries, on number of entries. And so we will keep people up to date during the year about that. Some other information on rules is we've sort of talked about a lot about the rules already. I wanted to give you the last part having to do with the rules is shown here. Sorry, it is shown right here, which we have. This will also be sent out, but I just want to go over it. We've gone over most of this. Obviously, with online chess, it has the ability to have, we would hope that there would be no cheating there too, but realize that chess.com has a way to detect whether there is any sort of computer assistance. They track to see if these are computer generated moves. If it is detected that the student is using some other form of help with a computer assisted game to do this, it will automatically forfeit the student. We also, as the tournament directors, will make sure and go through if there's a student that's really showing a different play than, again, we've had a lot of experience with the students before in doing this. And if they're showing moves that look like they're sort of computer generated chess moves, we have the ability to analyze the games and look at that. And if we find that there's a problem, we'll make sure and let them know. And obviously that will affect them and may cause them to be forfeited or lose their place if the tournament's already done. So we'd hate to have that happen. So just make sure that no one is using any sort of chess software or chess programs to help out. Again, saying the importance of you've got to be on the screen the whole time. If you get disconnected during a game, log back in as soon as possible, and it must be on the same device. Can't say it again, must be on the same device or it might not recognize it. So always keep it logged. If you get locked on, log back in quickly, make sure it's the same device. Make sure that you are not leaving the screen. Keep that tournament window open during the tournament. Avoid being on any other website or it will notice that and consider you having walked away from the board. Keep the tournament chat free of anything. I'll send us out to talk more about that. Again, if you need to be away, use the bathroom or something like that, make sure that you have already started the game first to have that happen. Make sure you do it quickly and make sure you leave that tournament window open during that time. Any sort of things related to if there's anything found out about a person sort of throwing a game during a tournament for any reason that would need to have discipline, may cause the person to forfeit future games. There's a way to chat and say good game in the chat section, which we'll leave information on here. Otherwise, again, that's the last thing I'll talk about is on the tournament morning. Make sure you are registered by 8 a.m. and make sure there will be 3 different tournaments, a kindergarten through 3rd, 4th through 6th, and 7th through 12th. Please make sure your student is registered in the correct one under there too. We don't have ways to change that or get rid of that if they make an error. So make absolutely sure they're registered in the correct one. We hope to have a great year this year and a fun time. And we're doing this while we, again, work towards getting back to in-person tournaments again. But in the meantime, we'd still like the students to learn and to have a great time playing chess. Thanks.